All right, so first play we're going to look at, 2nd and 2, one of the Patriots' first offensive plays.
What's going on, everyone? Mike Kadlick and Taylor Kyles here for CLNS Media, back with another episode of the Patriots Daily Podcast. Powered by you guys today. It is a members-only show here this afternoon, breaking down Drake Maye and the Patriots' offense. Elite performance against the Jets on Sunday. As we know, Patriots won 45-10. Another epic throttling of the team down in New York. Feels like old times around here in Foxboro. Drake Maye threw 5 touchdowns. The offense put up a ton of points. Josh McDaniels schemed a bunch of guys open. So we want to break all of that down for you. Taylor got the film. We have screenshots. We're ready to roll. So we're going to take a look at, again, what Maye and McDaniels were able to accomplish against the Jets on Sunday. But before we do that, Taylor, we have a little bit of an update here in the MVP race in the NFL. We talked about it at the end of Monday's show, leading right into Monday Night Football. The fact that Drake was just behind Matthew Stafford after his solid performance. We said, go watch the game, Patriots fans, if you want to see Stafford lay an egg. And that's exactly what he did, Taylor. He threw 3 interceptions. The Rams lost to the Falcons. Drake Maye is now the favorite by a long shot to win the MVP, according to odds makers. Obviously, it's the voters, not the odds makers, who make the decision. But it's something to definitely think about, given the fact that it feels like those two quarterbacks are in different directions, going in different directions right now. Patriots have a chance at the 1 seed. Rams can only be a wild card team at this point. We made the case last night for Drake Maye over Matthew Stafford. One of the things we talked about and kind of went back and forth on was the fact that Drake Maye had an easier schedule than Matthew Stafford. So what I did after last night was put together a little bit of a stat comparison here. They played 6 of the same opponents this year leading into Week 18. The Panthers, the Saints, the Titans, the Buccaneers, the Ravens, and then the Atlanta Falcons. Drake Maye against those teams, Taylor, went 6-0. Matthew Stafford just 4-2. Stafford beat him out in completion percentage by just 2%, as well as total yards. Drake threw 13 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. Stafford threw 14 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. And as you'll see on screen, Drake Maye blew Matthew Stafford out of the water on the ground, nearing almost 300 rushing yards, 259 yards, and a score. Stafford himself, negative 10 rushing yards, and no touchdowns. So that's the direct comparison between the opponents. Now, obviously, the rest of Stafford's schedule, the rest of Maye's schedule, that's a conversation for another day. But to me, this continues to help, Drake Maye's cause to win this award. Not just this comparison, but Stafford going down last night the way he did, and the odds shifting that way. So it's looking more and more, Taylor, like Drake Maye is going to ultimately have the edge in this award when it's all said and done.
And it may not be fair that a stronger end of the season for Drake Maye might be what catapults him to getting the award when the time comes.
Yeah.
That's how it is, though.
It's recency bias. That's just how it goes, too. Yeah.
And the way you finish the NFL season is significant. Like, I think there should be a little bit more weight put on the end because of the fact that teams kind of have you figured out, right? If you're able to blow teams out of the water earlier, then obviously, like, right halfway or even after 4 weeks, they have enough film to start getting a bead and an idea of what you're going to be. And I think the common opponents, I was thinking it as well. When I looked, I was like, they've actually played a lot of the same teams, and the stats themselves don't tell the whole story. But one thing I emphasized last night is in this conversation, no one really presses the fact that Drake is a dual threat and one of the most dangerous scramblers in the NFL, both as a thrower and as a runner. And when you talk about this, the total yards, Drake put up more total yards against these teams. Passing yards, sure, but you have to account for the actual production that he provided. So I wish that people kind of brought that up more in this conversation. And I know people were pushing back. Like, I got Mina in trouble last night. I think people were already kind of getting after her. She was saying that the Falcons forced Drake Maye, Matthew Stafford, and Josh Allen to struggle. People were pushing back against her, saying that Drake didn't struggle. That's not true. He had that amazing first half. Then he had some really bad fumbles. And there was overthrow or miscommunication with Hunter Henry, and he didn't really finish the game strong. It was one of those in that slate of like good defenses that they actually faced where he had like a quarter or two where he was just lights out, or maybe a couple bad moments, but really you were like, okay, like this is a really good game from Drake Maye. But then at some other point, he really did struggle. So Also, I think that's a little more excusable. I know this is MVP, and I don't know if maybe this part of it is fair, but I also think that Drake Maye's mistakes a lot of the time are more forgivable than a Josh Allen mistake or a Matthew Stafford mistake, because this guy's been in the league for 2 years. And then when you consider he's not really turning the ball over quite as much either, like he's not at the top of the league in turnover-worthy play rate or anything like that. So the fact that the Falcons really put all of those great quarterbacks in a chokehold, Drake was the only one with the passer rating of 100 or higher. I think Stafford finished with something in the high 60s. I believe Josh Allen had something in the mid 70s. So again, stats do not tell the whole story, but it's kind of hard to argue with a passer rating difference that's that significant. And also, I know that Greg Rosenthal, who's been on the show, I love Greg, but he said that he brought up the strength of schedule argument, saying that even when you look at the numbers, because my initial point was that the easy schedule thing, I think, applies more to the Patriots defense than it does to the offense. A point he several times on the show. I don't really know how you debate that, but he mentioned how, when you look at some of the advanced metrics, Patriots still face the easiest schedule of defenses, but I mean, I understand and I want to respect the numbers, but I also studied the tape against the Falcons, against the Browns, the Bills 2 times, also the Buccaneers and the Ravens, who gave some kind of schematic challenges and just personnel having some unique guys. And they did challenge Drake Maye. It wasn't like he was struggling, even though there were these grand opportunities. Like, they made life tough on him, and he still was able to, while not necessarily being consistent in all of those games, have some very strong stretches in every game except that second Bills matchup. So you can still make great cases for both. I don't want to rehash everything I said last night, but with the way
Kurt Warner tweet too,
Stafford played, and this Kurt Warner tweet too, but with the way Matthew Stafford played against the team that Drake Maye played, definitely made his mistakes, but also had a lot of positive moments. Stafford had his as well, but I mean, these guys are going in different directions towards the end, so we'll see if that's quite enough. But like I said last night, even before that game happened, I felt like Drake Maye really had earned it, with the only arguments you can really hold against him are the touchdown numbers, which I mean, Drake doesn't have a Devontae Adams, so take that for what it's worth. And as Kurt Warner says, I understand it being a topic of discussion, but the fact that people are making it seem like a deal breaker, I just don't think that's fair necessarily. And I would say that either way, truly, because you have a 23-year-old who is neck and neck with Stafford in all these categories while also adding a different dimension. So I want us to read this Kurt Warner tweet as well, because I think it's a really good make, but I don't know. It's been frustrating how many people are tweeting all the numbers and things. It's like, how about we tweet tape, right? How about we actually look at the substance and what they were able to do? I understand it's impossible for a 17-game season. Like, you're not going to post everything, but people just focusing on the numbers is really irritating me, as if like they're just forgetting some of the insane things that Drake Maye has done this season, particularly relative to his age and experience.
100%. Kurt Warner himself, a 2-time MVP himself, tweeted earlier, people using any NFL schedule as a means of discrediting a phenomenal season in an MVP case is ridiculous to me. They're all NFL players. You play the teams on your schedule when and where they tell you. Goes on to say there's so many factors we could use just for touchdowns, which this feels like a direct shot at Matthew Stafford, saying, among other things, how many attempts inside the 5-yard line? Like, that is just Devontae Adams merchant territory. Goes in there and just throws stuff. Puka Nacua as well, but also asking difference, average distance of throw, yards after catch for each wide receiver. How wide open was the guy? Was it man versus zone? And goes on to basically say they could all build a case, but again, you play the play, you play the game, and then we should watch it all and decide who has the best season. I mean, it's 100% true. Like, and the way he kind of says you play who's on your schedule and they're all NFL players, like, that just goes into the any given Sunday argument we talk about all the time, where it's one thing if you're debating a Heisman Trophy race, right? Between a guy who plays 7, 8, 9 games in the Big Ten versus somebody who has to go play in Conference USA. Like, there's levels to that shit in college. The NFL, there's obviously better and worse teams. There's obviously a hierarchy, but it's still, at the end of the day, professionals on the other side who, and we talk about Drake against the Jets, and we'll break it down in a few minutes here. Like, they were trying to disguise the hell out of shit. Like, they know how to run a defense just as much as some other guys too. Drake Maye has just continued to make the most of it. So it'll be interesting to see how this ultimately plays out down the stretch. But, you know, as you see there, as we talked about with the odds, as well as just the fact that Stafford, again, threw 3 interceptions, week 17 loss to the Falcons, continues to put Drake Maye at the forefront of the MVP conversation with just 1 game to go.
Speaking of Drake Maye, able to find really quick some stats for touchdowns for each of these 2 quarterbacks. So what it looks like when they throw their touchdowns.
Yeah.
I think I might have to give the edge to Drake. So
What do we
yards
got?
per attempt, Drake Maye is at 17.3. Matthew Stafford is at 13.5. Average time to throw, impressively, Maye is 2.72. Matthew Stafford is 2.24. Getting the ball out fast. That's nothing against him, but pretty crazy that Drake is scoring with almost 3 seconds that he's holding on to the ball. Then going a little bit deeper, Matthew Stafford does have more big-time throws. He has 14, Drake has 7. And big-time throw rate, Matthew Stafford has a 31.8%, and Drake is 22.6. But at the same time, Matthew Stafford has a higher turnover-worthy play rate on his touchdowns. I don't even know how that's possible. Stafford is at 4.5%. Drake is at 3%. Yards after catch, another one where Drake looks better. 26.4%. Matthew Stafford, 32.6%. And then also looking at, keeps going, play action rate, 43.2% for Matthew Stafford, 33.3% for Drake Maye. And then finally, I want to look at average depth of target. Drake Maye is at 15.8. Matthew Stafford is at 12. So if you want to look at the degree of difficulty, Drake Maye is doing it with less play action. He's throwing farther downfield, and the throws that he's making, Matthew Stafford is still making some crazy throws, as we can see by the big-time throw rate. Give it to him there. But that's a good point by Kurt Warner, where you look at most of these metrics of how difficult the play is, and outside of really one, Drake Maye kind of has the edge. So, and even looking at passer rating, which, I mean, that only means so much as we're talking about touchdowns. But just in terms of the average and how the formula works out, Drake Maye has 144.9 passer rating on his touchdowns. Matthew Stafford has 139.4. I think a lot of that is just the fact that he's throwing these really short touchdowns to Devontae Adams in the goal line. But again, that's a very good point. If you want to really nitpick these numbers, I think you could probably make cases for either guy, which is why I wish it would be, you would use the statistics as one part of it, but also I think that's one very small part of a much bigger story where we're talking about the cultural relevance does matter. The storylines do matter. And also the precedent that we're talking about, where Matthew Stafford is having a great season, and the fact that he's in the MVP conversation means to some degree it is historic. But it doesn't really hold a candle to what Drake Maye is doing, where, as we touched on, and you can watch the video for a little bit more on this, even though we're going pretty long right now. But when you're talking about Drake Maye getting in the record books or having some crazy achievement anytime he plays well, and just the fact that we are going on shows, national reporters are going on shows being like, this kid, it's crazy what he's doing at this age. I just think all of that should prop up Drake Maye's case a little bit more, because we know the MVP is not just the most valuable player. However you want to frame that argument, there are other things that go into it. And I just feel like if at the end of the day you're saying Drake didn't win it because he didn't play a hard schedule, and Stafford has played one of the hardest schedules, I believe he's had like some of the most success of anybody who's played a schedule as tough as him. So I cannot emphasize enough, I don't want to take anything away from him. I just don't know how you can be less impressed by with what Drake Maye is doing. And even if you do think it's close, I'm saying Drake. I'm not going to say people are wrong for Stafford, but I cannot stand the strength of schedule argument, because it feels like something that is significant, but is getting blown out of proportion and is ignoring a lot of other details that when people talk about that, they don't mention.
It's something I think too that, is trying to be talked into or brought up and, put into fruition, if you will, to basically bump up Stafford even more. It's like, oh, well, the schedule. It's like almost like a last-ditch effort to what happened to him last night, because, again, at this point, I feel like I don't want to say it's hard to argue. You've talked about it. We've talked about it. Both these guys are deserving. They're two of the top 3 or 4 best quarterbacks, best players in football right now. Like, Stafford's an elite playmaker. We know it. We've seen it. But Drake Maye, what he's done, the value to his team, which is in the name of the award, mixed in with everything else that has to go along with it, mixed in with playing your best football down the end of the season, like
having an inferior roster where you want to talk about strength of schedule. Well, let's see how Stafford does with the Patriots personnel. Like, no offense, but we are already talking about how the Patriots next year are going to have a much harder schedule, and we've been talking about for weeks that there are significant upgrades you still need to make to this team, even though you've already blown away expectations. So yeah, you want to talk about that. Well, what happens if you do put Drake Maye against a lot of those really good teams with the same ground game and receiving core? Terrence Ferguson, I was looking at every time I see Terrence Ferguson play, I'm like, imagine what Drake would do with someone like that. It would look a lot like what Matt Stafford does. And I think Drake is even to a degree more aggressive in his willingness to just throw when guys are still tightly covered. Not to a big degree. I keep wanting to emphasize, like, I'm not trying to discredit Matthew Stafford.
I know.
He's maybe, outside of Tom Brady because of what he's done for me as a person and when I was a fan, Matthew Stafford was my favorite quarterback of all time. So like, I love the guy.
Obsessed.
I hope he gets something,
great.
but I just think it's Drake's year.
I was one of the happier I've been, and maybe it was because I put a preseason bet on them a couple years ago. But when they won that Super Bowl, McVay and Stafford, I was like, this guy deserves this shit. Like, that was awesome. Like you said, the way he plays, his story, it's great. He deserves an MVP potentially at some point. I just don't know if he's going to get it this year because of what Drake Maye has done. So, and if he'll ever get it again, frankly, given his age. But I'm with you. He's one of my favorites. But Drake Maye, again, what's gone on this season? He's the MVP. I think, barring a catastrophic collapse against the Dolphins next weekend and Stafford throwing for 3 scores or whatever, I think it's Drake's to lose. I'll be relatively not disappointed. That's maybe the wrong word, but I'd be pretty surprised at this point if he doesn't end up winning it, just given the circumstances and the conversations around it right now. On that note, and one of the reasons why Drake Maye is where he is offense coordinator Josh McDaniels, one of the best play callers the league has seen. So we're going to break down a couple of his plays right now. Before we get into some Drake Maye magic, Taylor wanted to outline just how awesome McDaniels and the offense was down near the goal line. We have 4 touchdowns from this Patriots offense to break down. So Taylor, I will have you pull that up and we can get rolling on what Josh McDaniels did to help Drake Maye and the Patriots on Sunday against the Jets.
Yeah, so when we talked about this game right after it actually happened, one of the things I pointed out was Drake had a great game. And after watching the tape, I was even more impressed. But it was also impossible to ignore the fact that he was throwing to some wide open targets. And when you looked at the stats, according to Next Gen, his targets averaged 4.2 yards of separation at the point of their being thrown at. That was the highest that the Patriots have had all season. Part of that is the Jets aren't a great defense, right? But they are still an NFL defense, and there were things that Josh McDaniels was doing specifically to attack their man coverage schemes. That's one thing about the Jets. A lot of what they do looks like what the Patriots would do with Bill Belichick. They just don't really have the horses to pull it off. And beyond that, it was Josh McDaniels knowing exactly where he needed to go and who he needed to exploit. So the first example, we got a 2nd and 10. This is going to be, oh my gosh, there it is. Oh, my gosh. So this is actually going to be 1st and goal, rather. This is going to be Austin Hooper's touchdown where he got wide open. And this might not have seemed very exciting at the time, but I really like this one because the Patriots have tried these delayed releases in the low red zone. Sometimes they work, especially earlier in the year, but there was a long stretch of time where they didn't work. And the delays, the person who was defending the tight end would just be waiting for him to get out there, and Drake would end up having to throw it away. Here, I love that they just let Austin Hooper get right into his route as the only person who's actually going to be going downfield on hard run action. I love this play. So first, we're going to have a one-on-one matchup with Austin Hooper as the inline tight end to the weak side against Dean Clark, the safety. This really confused me, by the way, because they have 2 Clarks. And last year they had Chuck Clark, who's now on the Steelers. And at one point I had to delete a tweet because I got my Clarks confused. But you have this one-on-one matchup, and the Patriots are going to be faking hard outside zone action to the right to get all of these eyes and these defensive linemen thinking it's run. And you obviously see there's a huge disadvantage that this defender has because he has hard outside leverage, probably thinking this is going to be more of a corner. But no, sir, Josh McDaniels is a step ahead of you. Austin Hooper is going to be running a crossing route to the back of the end zone. Now, as you can see, Drake comes up from the fake. All of these guys are looking at the running back. No one has any idea that Austin Hooper's behind them. And as you can see, Clark is well behind. So this should be pretty easy. But what ends up happening is as Drake Maye gets ready to throw, you see there are 2 defenders who realize that Mondre doesn't have the ball. And they are now a problem because Drake, we've seen it against the Steelers, saw it a couple times. He doesn't give the ball quite as much air as he needs to, and it gets batted up. Well, he talked about it, said he needed to be better, and the quarterback is going to learn his lesson. Couldn't tell how good of a throw this was live because of the broadcast. Right. I'm all the way up in the booth. But look at the ball placement on this. Jamie and Sherwood very close to getting a finger on this, but Drake Maye puts enough air on it. He's like, oh no, I think I got it. Austin Hooper tracks the ball down in the back of the end zone. Great job by him to go outside of his frame to make this catch. 2 hands on the ball. Clark has done a solid job making up. Isn't going to get quite enough distance between him and Austin Hooper, though. Hooper secures it, gets both feet in bounds in the back of the end zone. Can't underrate that. Easy to kind of not know where you are on the field and maybe not be quite as diligent, but he's going to do that on the boundary. He's down. holds the football up, and we got Jack Westover ready to celebrate. Fellow tight end Hunter Henry coming to celebrate with the veteran, and then also Ramondre Stevenson going over to celebrate with his boys. So, live broadcast probably looked really easy, right? It's goal line, you fake the hard run and all that. But it was a subtle thing, I think, that Josh McDaniels did to tweak how he typically runs these types of delayed play actions in the low red zone. And also Drake Maye correcting some issues he had way earlier in the season with those batted passes and putting enough air on it to give his guy a chance. And we talk about Austin Hooper, man. All he does is catch touchdowns, explosive plays, and block his ass off. So always cool seeing him get the hands as well.
One note on there, just on Drake's sort of processing of that too. Like, you think a hard action and throw over the top is that easy, like you said, but that dude, Austin Hooper, is basically beelining it, sprinting across the back of the end zone. And he's only 5, 6, 7 yards apart, whatever, 6, 7, yards apart from him right there. That's not an easy throw, even though it looks it, because you also have that safety closing in at like electric speed. And the speed of the NFL game is obviously a lot different than college, but he's made the most of it, and he's sort of understood how to adapt to the game and go from there. So that was just another note. He's been awesome in that regard, and was able to get it done with Austin Hooper right there.
Yep. And this next touchdown was one of my favorites, and one that I'm sure to everybody watching live, they were like, what the hell are the Jets thinking in this situation? So most of these are going to be in the red zone. This is just outside at the Jets 22-yard line, 3rd and 7, first play of the second quarter. So first, we're going to get a single high coverage from the Jets. They're showing man coverage across the board, particularly because they start out in empty, where Ramondre Stevenson is on the outside and is followed by linebacker Quincy Williams. This is the coverage identifier, and the reason that Ramondre Stevenson was out there, because he's going to return to the backfield with Drake Maye now knowing that the Jets are most likely in some form of man coverage. I say most likely because that's going to be relevant a little bit later. So once Ramondre returns to the backfield, rather than keeping Quincy Williams on him, I'm not sure whether this was a check where they were expecting Ramondre to come back to the backfield and this was already dialed up, or they did it based on the look. But what they're going to do is dial up what's called a pirate stunt. Now, that's a 3-man line game where you're going to have 2 defenders crashing inside to open a hole for this looper on the other end. This is very hard for offensive lines to pick up because you're talking about having to block somebody who's all the way on the other side of the formation that you're not even thinking about. And then they're going to send 5 with also a couple rushers to this side. Now, the Patriots have 6-men in protection. They're technically good, but what is going to happen here is Ramondre, typically when you get these, what's called a mug look with these 2 linebackers in these interior gaps, at least threatening a blitz, you have to respect them. So you're saying, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This guy's probably on Hunter Henry. We got to get 6 guys. But when this happens, Ramondre is usually, especially when he's behind the tight or the tackle like this, is either going to block or he's going to run to the flat. Those are the tendencies that the Patriots have typically shown. So the Jets may be thinking, all right, you know what? If they're just going to send him to the flat and he's not that much of a threat, I know rookie Eric Watts is a pretty big guy, but maybe it'll be okay if we just have him extend out there, right? Because Drake Maye, it's 3rd and 7. He's probably not going to be looking to the flat, right? So they're thinking they're going to take the gamble. They're going to try to go for a blitz to spring a free rusher and just put a bigger edge defender on Ramondre Stevenson. Well, that luck I just mentioned, they're going to be shit out of because the Patriots are one step ahead. And in this matchup between a rookie edge defender who's like, I think he's 270 pounds. He's a big guy. So crazy. Eric Watts, the rookie, against Ramondre Stevenson, who we know has props, who we know has chops as a receiver and is able to threaten not just short, but also downfield. What he's going to be running is the outside portion of what's known as a scissors concept. It's called scissors because you have a post and a corner, and it kind of looks like a pair of scissors, as you can kind of see here. The depth kind of makes it look bad, but when it breaks, if you played Madden, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
They cross, they cut, just like scissors. Easy peasy.
Exactly. One of the few football names that actually does make sense. So you're going to get Kyle Williams running the post right here, really just to clear this one out, because since it's single high coverage, you want to attack man outside if you're going deep. So you're going to get Ramondre. He starts to feign like he's going to the flat, which is going to get Eric Watts going that way. Then he's going to take off vertical and go to the front pylon. And as we're going to see soon, he is going to smoke this poor overmatched rookie. So Ramondre, as you can see, starts looking like he's just going to go outside. And Eric Watts is kind of, that's where his momentum's bringing him. He's trying to race to the flat. But Ramondre then redirects upfield, and Eric Watts is in oh shit mode because now he's got to flip his hips. And not only is he not used to being in coverage, but he's a big dude. That's a lot to ask of him. And as you can see, Kyle Williams, who's also a man coverage, is going to clear out on the post.
Yep.
Now, Ramondre at this point obviously is not even, but by the time Drake Maye gets ready to throw, with a defensive lineman in his face, by the way, this was a tough one where Vidarian Lowe is going up against a bigger defender and ends up losing inside. Drake, unaffected though, is going to throw with perfect touch to a wide-ass open Ramondre Stevenson. Delivers the throw, drops it right in the bucket. Ramondre, it's an easy catch to make, and he finishes, so credit to him. I don't care. He's still running back. That's not an easy thing to do. Eric Watts is well behind him, and he's going to go into the end zone for the touchdown. So when you look at this play at first, you're thinking the Jets are idiots. Why are you covering Ramondre Stevenson with an edge defender? They took a gamble. They said, you know what? We're going to bet the Ramondre's either going to try to blitz one of our mugged-up linebackers who are coming to rush and maybe get confused, or he's just going to be a short outlet. We're not really worried about him. Josh McDaniels said, oh, no, you need to be worried. And now anybody else they play this season is going to have to respect the possibility of Ramondre not just getting out of the backfield against these blitz looks, but actually taking off and punishing you deep. And what actually happened earlier in the season where we saw this happen a lot, right? There was one in Miami. We saw they got Travion Henderson involved. Even Hunter Henry would line up in the backfield and run verticals. It forced safeties to respect that and go way deep. So they were getting covered from guys that were like 10, 12, 15 yards away. That's also something that Josh McDaniels can potentially take advantage of. So beautifully schemed here. Beautifully schemed play here from Josh McDaniels being one step ahead of the Jets defense.
And it was just another feather in the cap to another awesome day from Ramondre Stevenson, who continues to have upward momentum towards this end of the season. He was obviously their second leading rusher behind Travion, their second leading receiver behind Stephon Diggs on Sunday, who we're going to actually get to right now, who scored on a little screen-type pass on the goal line that was relatively reminiscent of a big play in Patriots history in Super Bowl 51.
And Stephon Diggs scored on this earlier in the season. I think this might have been the first touchdown he scored all year. And these shield screens are plays that the Patriots and Josh McDaniels specifically really likes these when defenses are going to play hard man coverage, especially if they're going to use some kind of single high safety use away from the action in the low red zone. That's what they're going to dial up here. 4th and goal, 3 yards to go. We are going to get a one-on-one matchup here. Once again, you got this single high safety. He's not technically deep because they're in the red zone, but he's really patrolling this middle of the field right here. And you're going to get Stephon Diggs on the outside with Brandon Stevens covering him. They really picked on Brandon Stevens in this game. You are going to hear his name a couple more times on this one. And the play the Patriots are going to be running, once again, is what they call a shield screen. Can also call it a tunnel screen. Tunnel because you're going inside and then you've got the lane. You know, you can figure it out. Now, Hunter Henry, who had a really good game as a blocker, not just here, but in the run game in general, he looked really good. He is going to block the safety that's lined up over him. Austin Hooper is going to shift across the formation and try to block this linebacker, or at least the most dangerous threat to this side. And I don't diagram it, but also Vidarian Lowe is going to throw a cut block right here to help clear out the area as well. And all of this traffic is going to force Brandon Stevens to try to work through it, basically giving him almost no shot at affecting this play. So the Jets are basically banking on this safety being able to get downhill in time, but they're banking on it. I don't think they know this is coming because this is not a look that you want against this, especially because once Austin Hooper does go across the field, the Jets, against a 2 tight end set with Hooper and Henry, are in their base defense. You've got 3 linebackers right here. So rather than giving themselves a numbers advantage by saying, all right, let's have this guy follow him to this area, they're going to try to maintain their gap integrity and just slide this over. So now you've got 1-on-1, 2-on-2, and 3-on-3. Once again, this safety is the only one who has any shot at really affecting this play, or Michael Clemens if Vidarian Lowe doesn't get this cut that he's about to initiate. But as we're going to see, he's going to be successful. So here we got Michael Clemens on the ground. His arms are down. He can't do anything about this. Brandon Stevens is way behind Stephon Diggs as he makes the catch. And the safety is really far in the backfield. Going to be tough for him to do anything. Also, great block here from Hunter Henry, pushing his guy back past the front line of the end zone. And also Austin Hooper is going to pave the way for Stephon Diggs. And then looking at the end zone angle, Diggs goes right behind Austin Hooper. Michael Clemens isn't able to make a play on it. And Brandon Stevens tries to catch up, but it's a little too late. And Stephon Diggs has scored. He's going to celebrate, but the tight ends are already fired up. This was the third or fourth touchdown of the day? I literally had it at the beginning of this. Let's see. What was this? This was their something touchdown of the day. Doesn't matter. But even though, again, that's a simple design, nothing super complicated, but a smart play call against a team that you know is going to be playing man coverage and probably won't be in a position to defend that kind of screen pass.
I got to tell you guys about our friends over at Prize Picks, because this episode and every episode of Patriots Daily is brought to you by Prize Picks. Whether you're starting a new routine or making player picks for the first time, trying something new can be hard, but in life and on Prize Picks, it always feels good to be right. With high-pressure playoff matchups every single weekend and elite basketball action almost every night, the action never stops, and Prize Picks lets you take control. They have a new feature now on Prize Picks. It's called Early Payouts. So even if your player gets off to a hot start, you now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. They also have new social feed features on Prize Picks, so you can share your Prize Picks with your friends, copy lineups from winners with a single click, and so much more. Prize Picks now offers stacks as well. You can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. So if you want to pick more on Steph Curry's points, 3-pointers, and assists, you can do that all in the same lineup. So download the Prize Picks app today, create an account, and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Glad you highlighted the tight ends there and their ability to block and set things up for other guys, because earlier, obviously, you showed the Hooper touchdown. And now we're going to get to Hunter Henry's crossing route touchdown. Too many words there. Who he also mentioned in a mic'd up video after the fact that he has never had more easy touchdown catches than playing with Drake Maye. So Patriots are trying their best to get the MVP campaign going. Hunter Henry as well. But take us through the Hunter Henry touchdown from Sunday and how Josh McDaniels was able to scheme it up.
Yep, so this is going to be Drake Maye's third easy throw in a row for a touchdown, although he does a little bit to make sure that this one's able to go. But a big part of this, now you saw the tight ends helped Stephon Diggs score that last one.
Yep.
Here, Stephon Diggs is actually going to open up the tight ends, which notably is something that we've seen throughout this season, where Austin Hooper, the time that he actually mossed the defender in Tennessee, was another play where he goes into a stack. The defender, both of the guys are looking at Stephon Diggs, and no one pays attention to the guy running right past them. And another thing I like about this play that we'll break into is it's another subtle tweak on what the Patriots have done and ways that teams have tried to defend them that create some of this confusion. So 2nd and 2, the Patriots are trying to punch it in just before halftime, already up 28 points. Now, we're going to be paying attention to Hunter Henry and Stephon Diggs primarily. Now, the first thing I want you to notice is you see everybody tapping their helmets. Hunter Henry's doing it. Steph's doing it. Drake Maye's doing it. That's because Hunter Henry, as the isolated receiver to the top of the route, or the top of the formation, is covered by safety Malachi Moore. That immediately tells you that the Jets, once again, are most likely in man coverage because of this odd alignment for the safety. And Brandon Stevens, who's typically an outside corner, is following Stephon Diggs as the number 3 in the slot, another typical man coverage indicator. And you got a single high safety in the back end for the Jets. Now, what the Patriots are checking to, I love this concept. So it's actually 2 reasons. One, Hunter Henry, and actually, I'm sorry, I should mention that Stephon Diggs is going to shift to the other side of the formation to enter a stack with Hunter Henry. And the reason I like this so much is a lot of the times you actually see Stephon Diggs and Hunter Henry as the stacks on opposite sides of the formation. So you think about the play against the Bills, whereas the 4th down, both guys pop out, Stephon Diggs and Hunter Henry are both covered. Well, when you have 2 players that demand attention, what a lot of offensive coordinators will do is put them on the same side of the field, because then it's like, all right, what are you going to do? You can flood coverage, you can try to adjust, but it's going to force you into an uncomfortable position and might put the offense a step ahead. Not only that, not only are you putting 2 of the biggest threats on the field on the same side in a condensed alignment, but what you usually see when Stephon Diggs does this is that slant route or that in-breaker, right? Again, just like we saw in that game against the Bills, and as we've seen a billion times, they like to get Hunter Henry and Stephon Diggs kind of option routes or in-breakers to beat man coverage and force guys to back off of them. But instead of breaking inside, Stephon is going to kind of hesitate and then go vertical and get wide open, because that's not something the Patriots had shown on film yet. Meanwhile, Hunter Henry is going to be running a crossing route. And to the other side, I didn't want to diagram it to make it more confusing. You're going to get a bit of a shorter crossing route from Demario Douglas underneath this. And then you're going to get a post from Kyle Williams that is going to be relevant later on in this clip. So it's a really good design from the Patriots, this vertical kind of passing concept to get into the end zone. And the way the Jets on paper are supposed to play this, or at least the way it looks, is that they're going to do what's called banjo, where you have the outside corner take anything outside and the inside corner takes anything inside so that you can't get picked. There's no confusion and you have a leverage advantage. Now, offenses can pick on this, but here the Jets are actually going to have a miscommunication once again because of Stephon Diggs. Once Diggs gets into his route, both Malachi Moore and Brandon Stevens both have their eyes on Diggs. Nobody is paying attention to poor old Hunter Henry, but he'll take that. Now, as the route develops, you're actually going to see that when Drake is on that back foot ready to throw, you still have this middle hook guy or this hole defender in the window. And even if you want to throw past him, Demario Douglas is running into the area, and yep, you have his defender carrying as well. So Drake's going to say, all right, I probably shouldn't throw this quite yet, but that's okay. Because look at this damn pocket. Plenty of space for Drake Maye to maneuver, and that's what he's going to do. He's going to slide up and left into the pocket. Now, at this point, Hunter Henry is starting to clear this defender. So there might be room if you want to throw it about here. But at the same time, this safety in the post is coming down on Hunter Henry's route. And I'm not sure if this is exactly how it was designed, but it looks like Stevens is trying to exchange responsibilities and replace in the post something else that will come up later, while the safety goes down and try to get the leverage advantage on Hunter Henry as Drake Maye is sliding up to make this throw. But remember, I mentioned that post by Kyle Williams. Because the safety is so intent on getting down on Hunter Henry, he doesn't realize that Kyle Williams is running right underneath him, basically creates a downfield pick. I don't think it's intentional by Kyle Williams, but the safety runs right into him. That leaves Hunter Henry wide open as Drake Maye lets this ball go, able to catch the ball, run into the end zone, and we get a little Hunter Henry spike. I don't know what he calls this. Is it like a King Kong thing? I feel like it's some kind of Kong something, but whatever it is, I love to see him do it. And like Henry said on the sideline, he has caught some of the easiest touchdowns of his career. And you can see the confusion that McDaniel's scheme was able to create got him wide open right off the bat, but also Drake Maye being smart, knowing when to throw and able to exploit a really nice pocket to create an easier opportunity for Hunter Henry. Because if he throws this at pretty much any point earlier in the play, there's a chance that this tight end gets lit up. And not only is it not a touchdown, but maybe, Hunter Henry gets hurt or something like that. So no hospital balls from Drake Maye. Smart decision, capitalizing on a great play design from the OC, Josh McDaniels.
And I think that's a good kind of segue for what we're going to talk about next, because on one hand, it's obviously that, he was able to be schemed open, right? Because of what happens, beginning, middle, and end of that play and how there's confusion between defenders, and it sets up the Kyle Williams interference, or not literal interference, but kind of pick-ish with, put that the safety in a bind, whatever. Drake waits it out, doesn't try and squeeze one in there, instead waits it out for the third window, throws an easy touchdown. And man, Taylor, did Drake Maye make some magic in this game, which is what our next segment is about. I know that Drake was obviously outstanding in those first couple of plays we talked about, but a lot of that did have to do with Josh McDaniels. And not that this stuff doesn't, but there's something to Drake's game that he is just downright special, whether it's the way he moves in the pocket, whether it's his off-platform throws, whether it's his ability to scramble, or, as we have here, 2 plays with Efton Chisum to have almost immediate what's the word I'm looking for?
Impact?
Impact, yeah. An immediate impact with a guy in Efton Chisum who has barely been on the field with him, and they have that chemistry. That's the word I was looking for. Chemistry almost immediately. So walk us through it. First one here is Chisum's big play against cover 0, where I know we talked about it last night. Kind of looked like you got a little too excited. I'm sure we'll talk about that here in a second.
Turf Monster got him, but that's okay because it was still a huge play. And another reason I love this one is because, as we've discussed in some other film breakdowns, the Patriots have struggled against cover 0. Now, a lot of people think cover 0 is just an all-out blitz. But what it also is at times is interior players, interior defensive linemen, linebackers that are mugging, what have you, will actually pop out because they know, if it's an all-out blitz, the short middle of the field is supposed to be wide open. So they'll pop somebody out to kind of just create interference where you can take a chance and throw at a dropping defensive tackle, but then you could look really dumb if that dude ends up intercepting it. So the Patriots have more been throwing out breaking routes, right? But the problem is One, a lot of the time, these defenders are actually leveraged outside, but they're ready to jump on anything that's inside. So it kind of gives them a leg up because they know the ball has to be out fast, but also Drake Maye has to get this ball out so quickly and isn't as adept at throwing out breakers as he is in breakers. That's been a thing for a while. He's great at both, but it's just harder when you're sped up to try to throw an outbreaking route because of how dangerous those are and because of the timing involved. So a lot of the time what happens is the ball's behind his receiver or the defense sees it coming a mile away and they're able to create either breakups or turnover-worthy plays the way we saw in Cincinnati where he almost threw a pick six. So why I like this is because the Patriots are actually going to finally throw an in-breaker closer to Drake Maye and exploit that wide-open middle, dropping defensive linemen be damned. There aren't any in this clip, but I like the idea that they were at least willing to do it. Now, as I said, the Jets are going to show cover zero. So we're going to have the 4 defensive linemen all rushing, but also Jamie and Sherwood going to attack the gap outside the shoulder of Ben Brown. And you're also going to get Quincy Williams attacking right here. And the way the Patriots are going to respond to this is they are going to slide this, or rather, these are squeeze rules. So when you're facing cover zero, the absolute top priority is to make sure nobody who's inside is able to get go in unblocked. You can let somebody off the edge because it's going to take them longer to get to the quarterback. But for example, Bedard Lowe doesn't want to block Michael Clemens because if he does and Ben Brown blocks his defensive lineman, Jamie and Sherwood has a straight line downhill to Drake Maye. That's a big no-no. So Vidarian is going to squeeze down and take Sherwood. They're all going to block down. You're going to get Morgan Moses getting the edge. Mike Nwenu is going to end up blocking Quincy Williams. And Garrett Bradbury is going to block down on 91 as he tries to loop inside, leaving Michael Clemens as the unblocked defender. So you got to make sure that you get the ball out before he gets to you because you're going to get Austin Hooper and Hunter Henry running verticals to the other side of the field. Now, going out a bit wider. We're going to choke it back in soon. But in the slot, you have Efton Chisum in what they kind of have as their playmaker role, where when you're in empty and you have the number 2 in the slot to the weak side of the field, if it's zone coverage, that can lead to mismatches where that guy is covered by a safety or a linebacker, the way we usually see Stephon Diggs. Now, this time, Diggs is at the bottom of the screen, but it seemed like they wanted to give Efton Chisum a little opportunity here. So he's going to be running a route against Jordan Clark in the slot. That route is going to be a quick slant. So like I said, sometimes these guys can pop out. Maybe it was a tendency for the Jets that their guys don't really do that. And when they send zero, it's a true zero and all-out blitz look. Patriots are able to capitalize, and a lot of it, while partially it's scheme, right, giving your guy an easy opportunity on a throw that he's better at, it's also a ridiculous throw from Drake Maye while he has pressure bearing down on him. So as I said, Michael Clemens is coming down unblocked, and Michael Clemens is a scary dude. He's a big, strong guy. So Drake knows there's a chance he might take a hit, but he's going to start letting this ball go as Efton Chisum makes his break. And Jordan Clark, you can see he's not fooled because, again, he knows the ball has to be out fast. So he is jumping this and trying to make the undercut and bat this pass down. But Drake Maye, you can see he is in the air after taking a big hit about to fall on his back, but does a perfect job leading Efton Chisum. So he's able to catch this and be set up for yards after the catch with the defender falling behind, again, because of the ball placement. If this is behind, the defender can make a play on it. If it's just like right on Efton Chisum's body, maybe there's a chance he gets brought down quickly. But the fact that Chisum kind of extends and then is able to, credit to him, keep his momentum forward for a second, it's a really good throw from Drake Maye to set this one up, and also good concentration from Efton Chisum.
Look at this defensive tackle playing like full on like defense on him like a freaking basketball game.
It's because he's trying not to get the flags. He knew he blew him up.
Yeah, right.
And then, so we pop back out, and you can see, because it's cover zero, there's no deep help. Efton Chisum
score
really should have scored. The only person who could have tackled him was the ref, or of course the turf monster, because we are going to see as he gets right around the 45-yard line. Unfortunately, he is going to stumble, but credit to Efton Chisum, kept his balance just enough and fought for contact to get the Patriots past midfield, set them up right outside the 40-yard line. And then I love the celebration. It looked like an Eastern Washington reference because he does a little eagle thing.
Oh yeah,
and then he has a little point ahead for the first down. So that was a fun little celebration, and one of a couple of examples where Drake Maye's ball placement and Efton Chisum showing great concentration in a tight situation were able to get the Patriots a huge play that helped them blow out their division rival Jets.
Remember a couple of years ago when Daniel Jones had the C's part for him on Thursday, or was it Thursday Night Football or some primetime game, and he's running and he's got the whole green of grass and he just eats shit and he trips and Joe Buck's like, oh, and he tripped.
We can't all be Danny Etling. We can't all be Danny Etling.
Seriously, Etling scored. Chisum should have too. But no, I'm sure that he's probably beating himself up over that one. But great play by him. Great play by Drake Maye as well to get a big chunky into there. All right, we got a couple more here, including what I think was the play of the game. Drake Maye getting out of the pocket, finding Stephon Diggs, who makes an elite play, toe tap on the sideline. Taylor, take us through it. What'd you see on the play?
Drake Maye is awesome in the quick game, and not only is it the ball placement and him being consistently accurate, but his ability to know when and when not to throw the ball. I was kind of traumatized by Mac Jones because of how often the defense would just bait him into making bad mistakes. Drake, I have yet to see him throw into a bad quick game window, and this is an example of how everything, like literally everything, can be going wrong around him, and he's still able to make these insane plays, obviously with the help of Stephon Diggs. So Patriots up 14-0, still the first quarter, and this is going to be a 1st and 10. And the Patriots love, I don't know what just happened there. The Patriots love these quick out concepts, right? This is one of their staple quick game plays. And as we've spoken about before, what will happen is on the outside, if you get off coverage, it's just going to be a quick out. But it can convert to a vertical if you get press coverage. So this defender up top is going to look like he's in press. Eventually, he's going to bail, but that's where Drake Maye is initially going to look because he might be thinking he could have a big play to Kyle Williams. Now, the Jets, once again, showing like they might be playing some kind of more physical coverage, but they're actually going to be running a cover 3 zone. Very basic, so both outside receivers are actually going to stick to their quick out concepts. Now, as I said, first Drake Maye starts off looking to his left. Nothing goes right. First of all, this corner, his hips right now are pointed towards Drake, and he might be in position to make a play on this ball. I'm not sure exactly if Drake is looking at Kyle or Hunter Henry here, but either way, a lot of the time he'll start inside and then throw outside, or it kind of depends on how he has a feel for the coverage. But Hunter Henry is essentially bracketed, 2 defenders in his area on the stick route, and Vidarian Lowe did a solid job on the cut block, but his defender was able to stand up, and he's actually going to affect the pass lane. So even if Drake Maye wants to throw this to Kyle Williams, there's too much going on, right? You got this guy standing right in your face. He might bat it down. You're already up 14 points. And again, maybe you don't want to risk this guy potentially undercutting the pass. So he's going to come off of that read wisely and look to his right. Unfortunately, not only is that defender bearing, and he actually stops, which is kind of funny. He just is standing here for whatever reason. But the other edge defender who Morgan Moses cut was on the ground because it's a late play. He's able to stand back up as Drake Maye is starting to leave the pocket. Well, that's okay, because you can see Stephon Diggs at this point is starting to turn up field, and I'm telling you, they do this at almost the exact same time. As Drake is starting to run, Stephon also looks upfield. Just that's the chemistry we talk about every week, and how it just doesn't take much time for Diggs to know his quarterback's in trouble and make something happen. So again, Drake in a terrible spot here. His first read wasn't there at all, and now he is sandwiched between 2 defensive linemen trying to somehow get this pass off. Now, he's going to do it because you have both of these guys still in the area. Drake letting this go. I think now he still has part of his foot on the ground. When he lets this ball go, he has no feet on the ground, which is insane that he is able to get it as far as he does. And Stephon Diggs on the ad-lib has managed to get himself open down the sideline. Now, I know some people were saying, hey, was this a perfect pass? Because he probably could have led Stephon Diggs. When you are rolling out, fading away, and throwing the ball without any feet on the ground, putting it in the area is more than okay with me. So this is a really good ball from Drake Maye. Insane that he's even able to make this happen at all. And Stephon Diggs put it right on the back of the helmet, and he says, you know what, that's mine. I'll take that. Reaches over the defender's helmet to secure the pass. And the most impressive part for me, the Moss is fantastic, but the awareness to know how close he is to the sideline, get both feet down while also pulling the ball up so that the defender can't punch it out. And then finally going out along the sideline, you see Tommy DeVito on his head. You got Will Campbell's coming over to help him up. I think that was Stephon Diggs' best play this season. I almost squealed in the press box. It happens sometimes. I tend to get very excited. This was one where I had to physically restrain myself because this was an absolutely insane play. And kudos for Drake Maye making this thing happen. Ridiculous elusiveness and ad-libbing ability. And then Stephon Diggs being the kind of fantastic veteran presence that's able to pay it off. And I don't even know.
Ridiculous.
I'm just rambling. That play was ridiculous.
It was so good. Again, you mentioned it, but it's the veteran presence that he knows when to, start scramble drill and get downfield and try and make a play for him. And then Maye's ability to say, no, I can throw this up to whoever, or not whoever, but to Diggs, because I know that he's going to make this play. He does it, again, pulling the ball away, getting the feet down all at the same time. An elite veteran play from Diggs and Maye. Put it all together and you get a true highlight reel play. We've done a lot of talk on passes. However, we have one Drake Maye scramble here to take you through. So Taylor, what do you got for us there?
Yeah, second play in a row that he's using his mobility. And I wanted to start with Josh McDaniels specifically because of this play. Since, as we kept talking about with Josh McDaniels, manipulating the Jets and their man coverage, he felt like he was constantly a step ahead and had the perfect designs to beat them. Also using a lot of coverage IDs like, displacement with tight ends and running backs all the way outside. And pretty much every time in that diagram they showed man coverage, that's exactly what they got. Really weren't trying to be tricky at all about it. Here, though, they go very Belichickian in the way that they defend this. Because I don't know if anybody's going to remember this because I'm such a freaking nerd, but I still remember it was one of the Patriots playoff runs where it's the same thing. They motioned a running back outside. Dante Hightower followed him, but they were actually in zone. And Hightower, even though he was in a weird position outside the numbers, was just the cloud defender. So basically they said, hit this guy, push him inside, but you don't have any deep responsibilities. That's a really tough play for a quarterback to adjust to because not many defenses have the kind of plays in their playbook where they're able to put linebackers, especially in those weird positions, and still be able to have trickier coverages. But Jamie Sherwood and Quincy Williams are smart linebackers. They're able to pull this off. And this is a 4th and 3 situation. So the Jets really were trying to put Drake Maye in a tough spot. Now, to highlight exactly why the Jets give this bad read and why it's really a good play and call by them, we get the 2 high safeties, but Quincy Williams, once again, like in that other play where Ramondre went back into the backfield, he's outside with Ramondre. Jamie Sherwood is over the top of Hunter Henry. So all 3 receivers are to the top of the screen, and Quintez Stiggers is right over Stephon Diggs as the number 3 in the slot. Now, again, everything about this picture is telling you that they are playing some form of cover 1, whether these 2 deep safeties are going to take halves, whether one of these guys goes to the middle of the field and the other one drops to Rob. It just is not common for anybody to run a zone from this look. That's what they're going to do because Stiggers, like you would see sometimes with Stephon Gilmore where they would do this during Belichick's time here, is actually going to be a middle hook defender in a cover 2 zone. So like I said, as Dante Hightower used to do, Quincy Williams is going to be the cloud defender, as we're going to see at the top of the screen from this corner here, and everyone in the middle is going to be in zone. That's not great for the Patriots because the routes we're going to focus on is a slant from Hunter Henry, which is actually a pretty solid route against this, but also a stick route from Stephon Diggs. And again, it's an empty formation. Stephon is the number 3 in the slot. A lot of the time when that happens, you're going to get one of 2 things. He's either going to run that juke route and everyone's going to be running Haas. So the number 2s are going to be running seams. These guys are going to run short or deep. And then they're trying to create a mismatch with Stephon Diggs. Or they're going to run a concept where Stephon Diggs, again, runs the stick route. You're going to get maybe a flat or a vertical, and then you're going to get something short. So post-snap, Drake Maye first looks to his left and sees that Hunter Henry is being jammed. To him, this looks like man coverage, right? Everything about this so far from what he sees when he takes the snap is man because of this type of this contact. Also love, this happened a few times in the game, and I really like that Drake didn't stay on Hunter Henry when he was jammed. He said, fine, that's going to take too long. I'm going to go to somebody else, and that's what he does. So after going to Hunter, he's going to go backside to Stephon Diggs, again, thinking it's man coverage and that Stephon is going to have a leverage advantage over his defender. But as you can see here, Drake's about to throw this ball. It's already out. He's winding up. Diggs is bracketed. This defender right here, this is one where I really wish that we could actually have video, but he looked like he was about to take Kyle Williams vertical up the field and had his back turned, but then trapped it and turned around knowing that something was coming underneath him and is ready to jump this for what might have been a pick 6 if Drake had thrown it. But a really smart play from Drake. He says, nope, I'm going to pull this down because I got all this space to the left side of the pocket, and he's just going to take off, right? So he read the disguise, and this was one Mike Vrabel even highlighted when I asked, like, about Drake's poise and decisiveness against these disguised coverages. And
Yeah.
you mentioned this fourth down where you can pretty much do everything right, and he still makes you pay. Now, I felt like the NFL doing this one, little first down marker. First down markers here. Drake isn't there yet, and you've got a pretty athletic linebacker in Jamie and Sherwood trying to chase him down. But Drake Maye, guy we've already seen outrun Abdul Carter, is pretty damn fast. He's going to get more than enough to convert for the first down, gets past the sticks here, and then ends up going out inside of the 10-yard line with Jamie and Sherwood literally diving to try to take him down. So this was one of my favorite plays of this entire game. It may not have been a throw, and I feel like it really went under the radar because live it looked like there might have been a man coverage put on there, but it was a great disguise from the Jets. They truly did do everything right, and I guarantee you that was a play that they practiced, maybe not a ton, but put a lot of emphasis on this week. And then Drake Maye just takes your soul out of your body and says, yeah, that's really nice, but I'm Drake Maye, and I'm not a Matthew Stafford, so I'm going to run for this. No offense, Matthew Stafford, I was joking. But, I mean, we talk about it. That dual threat ability is significant, and this is one of those plays where it is bright as day.
I was waiting for him to score on that play. Like you said, he beat Sherwood to the sideline, and I was like, oh, wow, like that's pretty good. You think, and all of a sudden I'm like, is he going to get around this guy, cut back, and just dive across the end zone line? Because it felt like one of those fourth downs, too, where it's like, this is just a continue to kick the Jets' ass type thing. And I didn't know if Maye was like, you know what? I'm going to say F you even more and get a 6th touchdown on the board today. Obviously, he didn't. But again, just showing his elite athleticism and elusiveness to make a play for his team. Final one here, Taylor, before we get out of here, is yet another Efton Chisum play, this time for a touchdown. Is this going to all of a sudden be the next, the next elite Patriots wide receiver quarterback duo and Drake Maye and Efton Chisum? Looks like it might be after what he did against the Jets on Sunday.
Yep, let's dive into it. So this was Drake Maye's last touchdown of the day, last snap of the day, and Efton Chisum's first career touchdown. So we got first and goal, 10 yards out, pretty damn early in the third quarter. Dude, look at these stands, by the way. It was crazy.
Yeah, that's embarrassing. That's so bad.
There was a point in this game where Corey Durden hyped up the crowd. I think it was earlier in the third quarter. It went crazy. I genuinely was rattled. I was like, who just did that? It was a Patriots player, and the Patriots fans went nuts. I didn't even see that many Giants fans to begin with. And I also found out a fun nugget. You see how the chairs here, some are dark and some are light?
Yeah.
It's so that when the broadcast shows it, it looks like people are sitting in them.
That's stupid.
Yeah.
Holy shit, though. It does.
It does.
It looks like it's a little bit more full than it actually is.
It was not, bro. If these were bleachers, it would look like a Harvard game. It would look like a Harvard football game on like a 2-degree day. So some little fun facts about this game from someone who was there. It was a dominant Patriots crowd, and there were not a whole lot of Jets fans in attendance, but there's a little fun fact there. But we are here for Efton Chisum and Drake Maye. So, just like that last play, Jordan Clark is going to be over the top of Efton Chisum one-on-one, and you're going to have one single high safety. Now, this is actually an almost identical concept to Efton Chisum's first career route run. Against the Titans, it was actually in a very similar situation. They were further outside of the red zone, kind of closer to the 20-yard line. But on that one, you had Efton Chisum on the outside, and I believe it was, because Stephon Diggs is outside here. It was a delayed route from the tight end, but again, Efton Chisum running that corner route. I think Drake Maye didn't like the look and threw it away. And as soon as I saw the score, I rung a bell in my head because I was like, wait a minute, that's the same thing. So he's going to be running that same corner route, and as you're going to see, tight end's going to stay in the block because it's a bootleg. They want to get Drake Maye the edge. So you're going to get Stephon Diggs on a short little out route. We've seen him catch this a ton of times. Had a couple against the Bills that turned into big plays. And then Efton Chisum in one-on-one coverage is going to be running this deep corner route. So he's the deeper option on the play. Kyle Williams on the backside is going to smoke his dude off the line of scrimmage and be the intermediate option from the backside on this crossing route. Basically a weak flood concept. Drake Maye going to fake this outside zone action left to Travion Henderson before booting out, and then he's going to have the option of hitting whichever guy is open. Now, as Drake Maye has gone outside in his bootleg, he's looking at Efton Chisum, and honestly, he's still pretty well covered as Drake Maye is getting ready to throw this. You can even see it better here. So when Efton starts going into his route, he starts going kind of down like he's going to block the way you would on one of these runs on the backside before taking off vertically. But because it's man coverage, his guy really doesn't take the cheese. And as he gets downfield, again, Drake is booting out. Pretty good coverage. The reason I gave him a yellow circle instead of a green one, because it's not a guarantee that he's going to be able to make this catch, because it's good coverage and maybe the defender makes a play on it. Hard to make a play on it, though, when you get a perfect throw. And Drake Maye, Mike Vrabel specifically mentioned the ball placement of Drake doing this while on the run. This is not easy. Think about the interception against the Buccaneers where he's on the run and throws it, but it's behind. Like, we've seen times where Drake is rolling out and the ball is slightly behind and it leads to either an incompletion or sometimes a really worse play. Here, going to be great job putting this in front of Chisum, who now does have a step, and also Drake sees that Clark has his back to him, and if a defender has his back to you, that means your receiver is open. Beautiful ball placement. Efton Chisum making the catch outside of his frame, similar to the last one, where it might be kind of tightish coverage, but a perfect pass, a great catch, able to make this touchdown. Stephon Diggs is clearly excited. And so then Efton Chisum makes the catch, and I loved this. So after the last one we saw, Chisum was fired up, does his ba. Here, he immediately points to Drake Maye. Like, while he was getting up, starts pointing to Drake. Stephon Diggs is happy for him. Kyle Williams is happy for him. America is happy for Efton Chisum. But what does he do? He takes the time to highlight a perfect throw from his quarterback in a tough situation. So, as we highlighted earlier, Josh McDaniels did a lot in this game and was a huge reason that Drake was able to be successful. When you have historic games like this, it's never, ever one person. No. A lot of the times it's the play calling. So Josh McDaniels, not just in the red zone, there were some other ones I could have broken down where the crossing route to Stephon Diggs, there's a play where he specifically takes advantage of a match coverage where it's man coverage to one side, zone to the other. He's able to clear out the entire side of the field, leave Stephon Diggs wide open for a big play. Things like that where Josh McDaniels is able to make things easier on his quarterback, but also the quarterback, when things aren't easy, able to put on that Superman cape and make perfect throws under duress or in some adverse situations. So fantastic performance from the Patriots offense overall, obviously, but just one that really highlights how, yes, it was the Jets, right? Yes, they maybe were stubborn and didn't do a whole lot to trick Drake Maye relative to other teams, but even when they made things harder on him, Drake was still able to punish them, and Josh McDaniels was able to take those rules and completely manipulate them the way that we know he is wont to do. So really fun performance to break down. This was a blast.
Yeah, it was. He was outstanding. Again, this was his his best game of the year. I know it was against the Jets, but 5 touchdowns, best QBR in NFL history, a near perfect passer rating, completes 19 to 21 passes. The whole thing was outstanding and was, I would say, the feather in his cap towards his MVP candidacy. That last play to Chisum, I'll say too, just give Chis a little bit more love. Like, perfect throw, puts it where it needs to be. An undrafted rookie who hasn't played a ton of NFL caliber and NFL speed football to be able to go and get that and haul it in, like you said, out of his frame is awesome to see as well. Those are the little
completing
things
it as he hit the ground too.
Right. So those are the things you see in his development. That's like, maybe they will have a little something here moving forward, and may need some help in the receiver room too, as we all have a lot of different things going on there. Obviously, Matt Collins out. And on that note, I will just bring up this super chat to talk about it towards the end. Nelson asked, is it true about Diggs facing charges? That is true. We are awaiting some more information there. But Nelson, first of all, appreciate the super chat. One of our best Patriots Press Pass members. He's involved in just about everything here. He's always watching our lives. He's always on our Discords on Friday. So shout out to you, Nelson. And I will say on the Diggs front, we did a full video earlier today, live when it broke, with more information on what's going on there. So head over to that video on the channel and check that out. But on the Drake Maye note, like we said, another elite performance from the 23-year-old, shaping up his NFL MVP campaign towards the back end of this season. Taylor, good stuff today. A long one, but a good one. This is what we love for our members. An hour show for our members here, talking about Drake's MVP candidacy, matched up against Matthew Stafford, talking about what Josh McDaniels was able to do for the young quarterback, and then, of course, looking at a little bit of Maye magic here at the end. Fun stuff as always. We'll be back again tomorrow here on the show with probably a mailbag episode. Look at some headlines. Patriots back to practice tomorrow as they get ready to take on the Dolphins to close out the 2025 season. So always make sure you keep it here on Patriots Press Pass, rate, review, and subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to Patriots Daily on all of your audio podcast feeds as well. It helps us out. We appreciate the love as always. Taylor, good stuff. Guys, thanks for joining us. And until next time, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other, and we will see you soon. Peace out, everyone.